Hey you guys, Laura here, and today we are going to be going through about 5 different exercises to help you with that kind of like icky wrist pain that you might get when you're doing planks, push-ups, if you've done reformer classes, anytime you put your hands on the foot bar, that kind of stuff. So to start out with, that wrist achiness can be one of two things. One, you might need to strengthen your shoulders, and I do have several videos to help you strengthen through the backside of your shoulders, the rotator cuff, and help you with that kind of like more anchoring through your shoulder girdle. Today's video, we will be covering exercises that go over wrist mobility. So another reason why you might have that tension through the front of your wrist joint is just from not having the amount of wrist extension that you need through this joint. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So about like 5 or 6 different exercises to help you improve that mobility so that over time you have that range of motion and you're not getting that kind of like achy, pinchy sensation in that wrist. So before we get started, if you're new to my channel, my name is Laura. I'm a certified personal trainer and Pilates instructor. And if you like videos on injury prevention, learning how to get stronger while staying pain-free, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that we can keep learning and growing and moving well together. Now, to get started, we are just going to be hanging out here together and start out with your palms together. And while keeping that bottom part of your palm together, I want you to try to lift your elbows upwards just as much as you can, a little bit of pressure in through the palms of the hands, and then you're going to lower the elbows down. So here we're already dynamically and actively trying to increase that range of motion of the wrist. Maybe you feel a little bit of stretch through that bottom part of the wrist. So if you're looking at my screen, you can see where my watch is between my watch and my hand. On the side that I had wrist surgery on, I do feel a little bit of stretch there. That's normal. I do wrist mobility exercises to help just kind of warm up the tissue, warm up the muscle and the fascia there before I go into any kind of weight-bearing exercises. And especially as I start to load up on my dumbbell weights, the weights that I'm strength training on, I will also take some time to stretch out my forearm muscles as well, because as you're working on that grip strength, that can make everything tight in this part of your arm, which will then make your wrist tighter too. So we're just going to do a couple more here. Another one you can do while you are not even having to weight bear at all on your hands is going to be a variation of a stop sign, is what I like to call it. So you're going to put your hand out. Here we want to make sure that we're touching the palm part of our hand as we just give it a little bit of a gentle hug. So we're going to alternate from an upright stop sign and then place our hand downwards. Now you can see the back of my hand and put a little bit of pressure here. So as I'm here, I have my arm bones straight. I'm going to turn to the side. I have my arm bones straight. I'm keeping my shoulder pulled down into my back. And as I press down, I can feel the stretch through the top of my forearm here. And as I come up, I can feel the stretch through the bottom of my forearm here. So we are going through both wrist extension and wrist flexion here, but we got to be able to move in both directions here. And I just saw my fingertips get a little bendy there. Another way that we're going to emphasize the stretch is by making sure these fingertips stay straight as well. If they bend, that's putting some of these muscles here on slack. So we want to try to have them straight. We do that for a couple times each side. So if you're someone that feels that wrist like as soon as you go into that weight bearing position, I would recommend just starting out with those 3 variations of the wrist mobilization exercises that I showed them. So just to review really quickly, we have our elbow flare up to the sky, we have our stop sign, palm facing up, pressing back, palm facing down. Now I'm going to scoot back and I'm going to show you another variation to do something similar as well. So we're going to go onto our hands and knees now. I'm going to move my hair so that it's out of the way. You can see my shoulders. So we're going to be on our hands and knees here. And all I'm going to do is just going to rock my hands forward over my fingertips and then sit my weight a little bit backwards here. Elbows straight, shoulders plugged, rock your weight forward, and then rock your weight backwards. It's very similar to that stop sign stretch that we were just doing moments ago, but now we're adding a little bit of pressure, more body weight pressure here. And you can do these for about 5 to 10, whatever feels good for you. I definitely feel it more on my left side, the side that I had my hand surgery on, than my right side. And if you've ever had a hand or a wrist injury, that might be similar for you. That's okay. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's weird. I would say that that is normal. And then also, you know, people tend to be more restricted on the side that they are less dominant on because they don't use it. But then the same could be said for sides that get used a lot. Those muscles could be tight too. So that's just to say everyone's body is different. What I tend to see is if it's a side that's had an injury before, or if it's a side that's not your dominant side. For me, for the clients that I see, those are the sides that tend to be weaker. Or sorry, tighter, I should say. All right, so we're doing that for about 5 to 10. And then another one you can do is just rotating the palm backwards. So I wouldn't do the full 180 that you just saw me do. I would just slowly pivot it like you're opening a jar and just see where your fingertips land. For me, my left hand does not go as far as my right hand, and that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and turn to face you so you can kind of see what's going on. So we're gonna turn like we're turning a jar. I'm gonna try to get those fingertips to face me, but they don't. Mine are kind of facing more towards like, I don't know, I guess 5-ish o'clock more than 6 o'clock. And then I'm gonna rotate them back. So here I do have a little bit of weight through my hands, but it's not very much. I definitely have a lot of weight through my legs. And you can see too, there's enough weight for me to be able to, you know, pick up my hand and move it to turn it around the bend. So just, you are in control of how much weight you want to place through your hands. These should be gentle stretches. I always tell my clients that even when we're trying to gain more mobility, we're trying to stretch more, we still want it to be comfortable. On a scale of 1 to 10, I always say that we're aiming for about like a 3, maybe a 4. But what happens is if it's too high, then we start to have a little bit of a parasympathetic or a sympathetic nervous system reaction to it. So all that means is, as we have that nervous system reaction to it, we start to get into a little bit of a fight or flight response. And so your body is going to basically go into a panic mode and try to hold tension, release cortisol, all stuff that we don't want to be happening. We want to be stretching and be in a relaxed state. That's going to encourage more change. So keep it in a comfortable state when you're stretching. So that's another stretch you can do. And then the final one I'm going to show you is just flipping those wrists, taking the palms. So it's almost kind of like you think of a yoga gorilla stretch. So instead of being palms up this way, we're going to flip the palms so that the bottom of the hands are facing me. Here I'm placing very, very gentle weight here on my wrists. And I'm just creating a little bit of a counter stretch here. We want to be able to move in both directions. And this one I just hold. I think it feels really good, especially if you have the tendency to lift heavy weights. I do a mix of both weightlifting and Pilates. So I definitely feel the work as I'm starting to lift a little bit heavier with my weightlifting days. So this is always one that feels really good for me. And then after about a 10-second hold, I like to shake it out. And then that's it. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're someone that already right away, when you're on those hands and knees, you start to feel a little bit of tension in the front of the wrist, just stick with the first 3 that I showed you and then gradually work towards being able to work up to the hands and knees position. I would also recommend checking out some of those videos that I have on strengthening through the back of the shoulders. When you have your shoulder more in alignment, sitting in your upper back, then that's gonna relieve pressure through your wrist, through your elbow joint, because you're sitting in muscle instead of sitting in joint. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to continue learning and growing and moving well with me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you can get notified when I post new videos weekly. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to make a video that's inspired by one of your questions, just like how this one was. And I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good one.